All right, so uh, ever wonder what really happens when people use AI assistants? Are they all just writing bad poetry and asking for relationship advice? Or is there something deeper going on?
That's a question even the creators of these systems are grappling with. It's like giving someone a powerful new tool and having absolutely no idea what they'll create with it.
Right. And that's exactly why today we're diving into something called Clio.
Clio.
Yeah, Clio. It's this fascinating system developed by Anthropic, the folks behind the AI assistant Claude.
Oh, Anthropic. Okay. So what's so intriguing about this Clio system is that it's designed to analyze how people are actually using AI assistants in the real world, but it does so without compromising user privacy.
Okay, so that sounds promising. But how do they actually get around that whole privacy issue? I mean, isn't looking at conversations like the most obvious way to know how people are using these tools?
Well, yeah, it is, but that obviously raises some pretty serious ethical concerns. So Clio uses kind of a clever approach. You see, it involves AI-powered analysis that extracts high-level trends and patterns without revealing any personal data.
So it's like an AI anthropologist observing and understanding human behavior, but without actually eavesdropping on individual conversations.
Exactly. And what's even more fascinating is that Clio's helping uncover unexpected uses and risks of AI, things that even the creators didn't anticipate.
Hold on, unexpected risks. That sounds a little ominous. What kind of things are we talking about here?
Well, we'll definitely get into the specifics a little bit later, but let's just say that Clio has revealed some creative ways that people are trying to, shall we say, bend the rules when it comes to using AI assistants.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Let's get into those details. So we're diving into Clio's findings on Claude.ai, and I hear there are some surprising trends in how people are using it across different cultures and languages.
You're in for a treat. And we'll also uncover how Clio is helping Anthropic make its own AI systems safer. That includes uncovering some pretty interesting cases of attempted AI abuse.
All right, let's start with the basics. How does Clio actually work? Is it like some super intelligent AI that can read between the lines of every conversation?
Well, not exactly read between the lines, but it's definitely sophisticated. Clio works as a multi-stage pipeline. It starts by extracting key facets from conversations. Things like the topics being discussed, the languages used, and even the user's intent.
So it's kind of like tagging each conversation with a bunch of descriptors to categorize it.
Precisely. Then Clio uses a technique called semantic clustering to group similar conversations together based on those facets. And finally, it creates a hierarchy of insights that Anthropic researchers can easily explore to understand the big picture.
Wait, so they're using AI models to analyze these conversations and group them together. It's like AI analyzing AI to understand how humans are using AI.
It really is. And they're using some pretty powerful models for this, like Claude 3 Haiku, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and a sentence transformer called AllEmpNet Base V2. But despite all this AI firepower, Clio never loses sight of user privacy.
So how does Clio actually protect privacy when it's dealing with all this potentially sensitive conversational data?
Well, it uses multiple layers of protection. For example, there are these things called aggregation thresholds. So Clio won't create clusters from just a handful of conversations, which could potentially be traced back to individuals. They also use AI to summarize conversations. It extracts the gist while discarding anything personally identifiable. And of course, any remaining potentially identifiable information is completely removed before any human ever sees it.
Okay, so Clio is like this super secure vault storing all these insights about AI usage, but without ever revealing the personal details of the people involved. That's pretty impressive.
It is, and it's allowing researchers to get a glimpse into the real world of AI assistants in a way that's never been possible before. And what Clio has uncovered about how people are actually using Claude.ai is pretty fascinating.
All right, so spill the beans. What are people actually doing with this AI assistant?
Well, get ready for a surprise. The most common use cases aren't like writing poems or generating creative text formats as you might expect.
Okay, so what is it then?
Coding and business tasks. People are using Claude to debug their code, draft professional emails, and even analyze business data.
Whoa, that's not what I was expecting at all. It seems like we've totally underestimated AI's potential as a productivity tool.
We definitely have. It's like having this super-powered assistant who can handle all those tedious tasks, and then that frees up humans to focus on the more creative and strategic work.
So it's not really replacing jobs, it's more like changing them.
Exactly. But it's not all work and no play, though. Clio also uncovered clusters of conversations around creative writing, research, and education.
Okay, that makes sense. People are finding these practical applications for AI in both their professional and personal lives. It's like having this personalized Swiss Army knife of knowledge and creativity just right there at your fingertips.
It really is. And what's even more fascinating is that Clio revealed some distinct cultural variations in how people are using AI.
Hold on. Cultural variations. I'm all ears. Tell me more about that.
Well, for starters, Clio found that non-English conversations were a lot more likely to revolve around economic and social issues, particularly things like elderly care in Japanese and Chinese.
Huh, that's interesting. It suggests that AI could be used to address these very specific societal challenges in different parts of the world.
Precisely. And it highlights the importance of considering cultural context when we're designing and deploying these AI systems. We need to ensure that AI is inclusive and caters to the diverse needs and priorities of these different communities.
That's a great point. It's not just about translating AI into these different languages. It's about understanding the nuances of how people from different cultures interact with and use technology.
Absolutely. But the cultural variations don't just stop there. Clio also found clusters of conversations around these incredibly specific topics like interpreting dreams, generating custom Minecraft mods, and even seeking advice on competitive gaming.
That's wild. It just speaks to the sheer breadth of human curiosity and the potential for AI to cater to these incredibly niche interests.
It does, and it suggests that as AI continues to evolve, we might see this proliferation of hyper-specialized AI assistants, each one tailored to a specific domain or interest.
Okay, so Clio has revealed some pretty fascinating insights into how people are using these AI assistants. But remember earlier you mentioned something about unexpected risks.
Right. Well, it turns out Clio isn't just about understanding how AI is used. It's also playing this really crucial role in making AI systems safer. Think of it like a guardian angel for AI, watching over and alerting us to potential abuse.
A guardian angel for AI. That sounds intriguing. How does Clio actually do that?
Well, for one thing, Clio can spot these patterns of misuse that might be invisible at the level of individual conversations. It's like noticing this subtle ripple effect across a pond that indicates something bigger is happening beneath the surface.
Okay, give me a concrete example because I'm having trouble picturing this.
Sure. Clio actually helped uncover this whole network of automated accounts that were using Claude.ai for, shall we say, less than ethical purposes.
What were they doing?
They were essentially spamming the system with requests to generate content for search engine optimization. So they were trying to manipulate search engine rankings for their own benefit.
Whoa, that's pretty sneaky. So Clio is not only helping us understand how AI is used, but it's also protecting AI systems from being manipulated by these bad actors.
Exactly. And that's not all. Clio can also monitor for unexpected and potentially harmful behavior, especially during these high-stakes periods like elections or when new features are rolled out.
It's like having this watchful eye on AI, making sure it doesn't go off the rails when the stakes are high. So tell me, are there any real-world examples of Clio catching AI abuse in action?
There are, and some of them are quite fascinating. For example, Clio identified a network of accounts that were attempting to resell unauthorized access to Claude.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's essentially a black market for AI access, which raises a pretty serious concerns about security and accountability.
That's concerning. So Clio is helping to expose these vulnerabilities and prevent AI from being exploited for profit or for other malicious purposes. But how does Clio actually differentiate between legitimate use and these misuse attempts? It seems like a very fine line to walk.
It is a fine line. And that's where Clio's analysis of these massive amounts of data becomes so crucial. By identifying these patterns and anomalies, it can flag behavior that deviates from the norm and warrants further investigation.
It's like having a sixth sense for AI, being able to sense when something's amiss, even if it's not immediately obvious to humans. But I imagine this kind of monitoring raises some ethical questions about surveillance and privacy, right?
You're right, and that's why Anthropic is very transparent about how Clio is used and has these really strict protocols in place to protect user privacy. Clio's primary goal is to ensure AI safety and responsible use, not to invade anyone's privacy.
That's reassuring. So Clio is acting like this sort of digital detective, but one that operates with a really strong ethical compass. It's uncovering these misuse cases that would otherwise go completely undetected.
Precisely. And in doing so, it's helping to shape a future where AI is used for good, not for harm. But Clio's role in AI safety goes beyond just catching the bad guys. It's also helping to improve the very systems that are designed to keep AI in check.
You mean those SASE classifiers we talked about earlier? The AI bouncers that are supposed to keep all the harmful content out?
Exactly. Remember how we discussed how even the best bouncers can make mistakes? Like sometimes letting the troublemakers in and turning away harmless guests? Well, Clio is helping to identify those misclassifications and make those AI bouncers a lot more accurate.
So Clio's like a quality control manager for AI safety, constantly monitoring and refining the system to make sure it's working as intended. How does it actually do that?
It analyzes the decisions made by those safety classifiers and identifies patterns of false positives and false negatives.
Okay, remind me again. What's the difference between those two?
A false positive is when the safety classifier flags something as harmful when it's actually totally harmless, like mistaking a friendly debate for an argument that's about to get really heated.
And a false negative.
That's when something harmful slips past the safety classifier completely undetected. Think of it like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Got it. So Clio helps to identify both of those scenarios, which in turn helps to fine-tune those safety classifiers and make them a lot more effective.
Precisely. It's like having this constant feedback loop, ensuring that the AI bouncers are always learning and improving. But what's really fascinating is that Clio has uncovered some pretty surprising examples of both false positives and false negatives.
All right, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these surprising cases. What kind of harmless content is being mistakenly flagged as dangerous?
Well, for one thing, Clio found that conversations about job applications and resume advice were often flagged incorrectly. This is likely because those conversations often contain personal information, which the safety classifiers might misinterpret as being potentially harmful.
Interesting. So it's not the content itself that's the problem. It's the context in which it appears. And this is where Clio's nuanced analysis comes in handy.
Exactly. And it highlights the challenge of teaching AI to understand the subtleties of human language and context.
Okay, what about other examples? Were there any other surprising false positives that Clio uncovered?
Yeah, there were. Clio also found that conversations about security-related programming were sometimes flagged incorrectly. And perhaps most surprisingly, even discussions about Dungeons and Dragons were occasionally raising red flags.
Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah.
Seriously?
No.
What could possibly be harmful about talking about imaginary monsters and spells?
It seems absurd, but it's likely that the safety classifiers were picking up on certain keywords or phrases that might be associated with harmful content, even though in the context of a fantasy game, they're completely harmless.
It's like those spam filters that flag perfectly legitimate emails as junk mail. Frustrating and sometimes hilarious.
You're right, and it just underscores the fact that even the most sophisticated AI systems can sometimes make these silly mistakes. It's a good reminder that AI is still very much a work in progress, and we can't blindly trust it to make perfect judgments.
All right, so we talked about the false positives. What about the other side of the coin? What kind of harmful content is slipping past these AI bouncers?
This is where things get a bit more serious. Clio found that some translations of sexually explicit content were not being flagged correctly, even though that type of content is clearly against the rules.
Oh, wow. So it's like the safety classifiers are struggling to keep up with the ever-evolving ways that people might try to bypass the rules.
That's a key challenge, and it highlights the need for constant vigilance and adaptation in AI safety. We're kind of in an arms race of sorts, As AI safety measures improve, so too do the methods used to circumvent them.
It's a constant game of cat and mouse, but with much higher stakes.
Exactly. And that's why tools like Clio are so essential. They give us the insights we need to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that AI is used responsibly and ethically.
So Clio's playing this crucial role in identifying both the strengths and weaknesses of our current AI safety measures.
It is, and by analyzing this real-world data, it's helping us to understand the limitations of AI and refine those safety mechanisms to be more accurate and effective. But Clio's role in ensuring responsible AI use doesn't just stop there. It also plays a vital role in detecting and addressing something we haven't talked about yet: coordinated misuse attempts.
Coordinated misuse. Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about that.
Imagine a group of people working together to try and trick or exploit an AI system.
Like a flash mob of AI abuse.
Exactly. They might create multiple accounts to bombard an AI assistant with requests for the same harmful content, or they might try to manipulate the system in other ways.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster. So how does Clio actually catch them?
By looking for those telltale signs of coordination, Clio can identify clusters of conversations that share similar patterns of language, timing, and content, even when the individual accounts might seem harmless on their own. It's like noticing the sudden surge in traffic from a specific location. It indicates that something unusual might be happening.
So Clio can kind of see the forest for the trees, so to speak. It can spot those suspicious patterns, even when the individual actions might blend in with normal usage.
Precisely. It's about recognizing collective behavior, not just individual actions.
And what happens once Clio identifies one of these coordinated misuse attempts? Does it, sound the alarm bells?
It does. Clio's findings are reviewed by a dedicated trust and safety team at Anthropic, who can then take appropriate action, like suspending accounts or blocking certain types of requests.
So it's like having this AI-powered security system that can alert the human experts when something fishy is going on. But does this reliance on human intervention create a bottleneck? I mean, can humans really keep up with the sheer volume of data that Clio is analyzing?